Good morning, happy Monday. It is Monday, November 1st, 2021, about 7 in the morning. We are about to embark on a very busy week here in the 4th grade. This week we have conferences with families, report card comments are due. I also wanted to get here early because we just had Halloween celebrations in here on Friday, so naturally have some cleaning up to do from all of that. 2 birthdays today in the classroom, so want to get those things all prepared. My district also recently announced that the mask mandate for teachers and students and visitors in the building, that the mask mandate has been rescinded, that they lifted the mask mandate. So want to talk a little bit about that with you all as well. I also brought in some of my desk setup from home into the classroom because of conferences this week. I'll explain more about that here in a little bit, but when I get to work, plenty to do, so let's go ahead and get into it. I just went ahead and got all of my desk setup things together. When we were teaching remotely during the pandemic, you were unable to see students on Google Meet while sharing your screen. It was a major flaw with Google Meet. I think they've adjusted that. I'm actually not even sure. I haven't been on a Google Meet in quite some time. As I said, conferences are coming up this week, and families were given the option to have their conference here in the classroom in person, or they could actually have their conferences held via Google Meet. And I'm not sure if I needed to bring my external other monitor, but I have it just in case. I want to be able to share materials, test scores, things like that with families digitally while also seeing them via the Google Meet. So the extra monitor is super helpful. I also, with report card comments, like to have my gradebook up on one screen and all of their work up on another, so I'm able to quickly do that. So the extra monitor was super helpful. I think I got this one on a Black Friday deal 2 years ago for $75. It's a completely unnecessary purchase, but it's really helpful. I also have my extra keyboard and mouse, along with a laptop stand just to make everything eye level. It helps my productivity, it keeps things going really smoothly. So if you are looking for some things to get, I will link all of my desk favorite essentials down below. Okay, so for student birthdays, students will get a note that I write to them. They also get one of these little slap bracelets, which really bring me back to my childhood. And then these happy birthday pencils with an eraser, and they're rainbows. So those are fun. These are the things that I give all students for their birthday. Many hours later, it was a great day here in the classroom. A lot of learning, a lot of fun, really impressed with students and all that I am seeing at this point in the year. We talked a little bit earlier in the video about my district's mask mandate update. Basically what happened was, at our last Board of Education meeting, our superintendent made a recommendation to the Board of Education to rescind the mask policy. This was based off of updated quarantine guidelines by the Ohio Department of Health, the Ohio Health Board, whatever it's called, and collectively, they made a decision that there are new quarantine guidelines that basically mean if students are exposed to the virus, they only will need to wear a mask for 14 days after exposure. They don't necessarily need to quarantine any longer or anything like that. I'm not incredibly sure what the intricacies of the new guidelines are. They came out so recently and I haven't had a chance to really dive into them yet. I just know that students are no longer required to wear masks in the classroom. Originally, when I heard this news, I was shocked because we've been wearing masks for essentially 20 months, and to now not be required to wear them, I was extremely anxious. I am still personally choosing to wear my mask because my students are not yet vaccinated, and for me, I think that's what's safest in terms of myself and my family family and my friends, so I'm making that choice, and students can make that choice as well. And we really communicated to students the importance of having these conversations with families. But the first day, on that Tuesday after the board meeting last week, we had a true realization of the current state of our country when it comes to all things with the virus and masking and politics and how divided we are as a nation. Students were saying all sorts of things that were very shocking to hear coming out of the mouths of fourth graders, and it was a really scary awakening that I wasn't necessarily expecting. And since then, we have had a lot of more communication about what our expectations and guidelines are. I personally am feeling slightly more comfortable than I was last week. It still makes me very apprehensive that students are not required to wear masks and that visitors and guests in the building are also not required to wear masks, but I'm doing everything I can to advocate for the safety of my students, for the safety of myself, the safety of the school community, and just taking it day by day. So with all of that news now shared to you people, friends on the internet, I have just a few other things I want to get done today before I head on out. The biggest being getting everything together for report cards and for conferences. I shared my desk setup this morning for conferences. I thought I'd also walk you through what my form looks like that I fill out for all of my students and their families when they come to have a conference. For me personally, I want to have everything together. I want to be really organized. I want to be really thoughtful. And in order to do that, I need to prepare. So let me show you what that looks like. This is the document that I prepare for conferences. I just have it say student name on the top to leave it anonymous. Students took a reflection last week, just reflecting on these 4 questions. They filled it out in a Google form. What has been your favorite part of 4th grade? How are you doing in math? What are you doing well? What can you do better? Are you proud of your grades? How are you doing in English language arts? What are you doing well? What can you do better? Are you proud of your grades? What else would you like to share about 4th grade? I copy and paste their reflections directly on this document. Students are unable to attend conferences, but I still want their voices to be heard. So I find that this information is really important, and it's such a great way to start conferences with families. I then just go over like specific data points. Here's an example. So we take a test called STAR. It shares what their score is in reading. It shares what their score is in math. This is just helpful to ground my observations in data. We then have our Fountas and Pinnell or F&P score. I then share with families ELA, math, and social studies grades for the first quarter. That moves us into social emotional data. This is just qualitative data that I am taking and sharing. I typically share a couple of glows, things that students are doing well, and a couple of grows, areas for improvement. And then finally, I have this section for conference notes. This is where I will just handwrite any notes throughout the conference, and then families are able to take this paper home and just have it for whatever they want it for. It is time consuming to have to create one of those documents for each of my students, but I find that the time it takes ahead of time to really think about all of my individual students, reflect on the qualitative and quantitative data that I have, think about their performance, where they are, where they need to go. This is really helpful for me to really get to know my students and to think about how I and their families can best support them. At the end of the day, the point of conferences, they're not to be intimidating. In my first year of teaching and second year of teaching even, I found this entire idea of conferences to be really scary. Like, who am I to sit across a table from someone who knows their child way better than I do, or hopefully way better than I do, and tell them how they're doing. But I'm now at a point where I ground all of the conversation in data, what I am seeing, what's going on, what I'm not seeing, and I use that data to drive these conversations. Taking the time to do this ahead of time is incredibly helpful, so make sure you are prepared and just show up feeling confident. You know these kids, you are working with them each and every day in the classroom. Present the data in a way that is accessible to families, and then have meaningful conversations about how you can best support them. At least that is how I approach my conferences to make them the best use of time possible. Thank you so much for watching today's video. As I shared at the start of this YouTube channel, we are on a journey. Folks in education, you understand what it is like to currently teach in schools, and although vaccines are readily available, we know for a fact that the pandemic is not over and that our students are currently facing consequences of that pandemic, and we are all dealing with the repercussions on a daily basis. So know that if you are in this fight with me, you are not alone. We are in it together. You are capable, and your students are so lucky to have you. I am gonna wrap up a couple of things and then get out of here for the day, but thank you so much for watching today's video. It is so awesome connecting with all of you here on YouTube, over on Instagram. I also recently started posting on TikTok, so if that is something you are interested in, I will link my TikTok down below. Make sure to check things out over there. It's sometimes just nice to post a quick video on TikTok as opposed to some of these more formal edited videos here on YouTube. But YouTube, you will forever remain my #1, so have no fear. I'm not going anywhere. Thank you again so much for watching. Leave any comments down below with things that are going really well for you in the classroom, things that you could use any support on from me, a fellow educator. If you are interested in my conference form also, let me know down below. I'm happy to make that available on my Teachers Pay Teachers store if that is interesting to you. So again, thank you so much for being here. I so appreciate you watching, and I will catch you in the next one.